We take you to Naaman. It's a town in the Dome Kwabenya constituency where the chiefs and residents are unhappy with the member of parliament for the area, Adwoa Safo, for her inability to be able to lobby for roads of the area to be reconstructed. Now, the lack of tarred roads and street lights have given rise to a number of problems, including theft and poor maternal health in their community. The resident who spoke to PSA Nanaya Osafu denied knowledge of knowing any assembly member of the area. There's more in the following report.
Naaman is a town in the Ga East Municipal District, sandwiched between Hacho, Agboba, and Ashongman. It also falls within the constituency of Dome Kwabenya. Potholes in the roads are a common trend here. Residents tell me it has gone on for far too long.
We use our motor normally when people sick, or even the pregnant people when they sick. We use our motor, carry them to the roadside before they board a car to their destination. Evening times like this, you can see normally sometimes some robbers too used to take that opportunity and rob around because there is no lights around, the roads too are not good. Adwoa Safo, she normally know that this area is MPP, stronghold. So she just take everything cheap.
No street light, nothing is going on. So now we are suffering, and we are helping the market men, the market women. We are helping them. So the way we are here, because how the road is, we are suffering. And the road is very bad, and they're spoiling our cars. That's the place we don't have anything. That's the place we are walking and doing and then helping our wives and then our children. So how the road is, if they didn't come and help us, we don't know how to do. So please, they shouldn't come. No vote. If they didn't do that road for us, no road, no vote.
So Owusu is a driver here, as he earlier intimated. He is saying the roads are in very poor condition. It's affecting their services as taxi drivers over here. And what pains him most is the fact that police service and security personnel also take note, or in fact inspect the roadworthiness of vehicles with the accompanying cash that comes with it, while the road itself is not worthy in its own words. I'm in a different area of Naaman, and just so you get a clearer picture of the situation here, this is an area in Naaman, or the part of Naaman that has huge economic activity going on. To my left, there are several stores which are operated by individuals to make their daily wages. To my right also, and the very venture which I'm standing before, is a concrete block making venture where several men are working to make their daily wages. There are also several blocks here. That means they've been doing business. But one other thing about this place, just to show how habitable the place is that there is also a signboard and a church facility here. That means that individuals throng in on Sundays or Saturdays to worship. This same stretch of road has been declared a no-go zone by many of the drivers here. There are too many potholes, and as such, they do not come here at all. I count at least 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 giant-sized potholes, small ponds on their own filled with mud. As such, commuters, from motor drivers to vehicle operators, find it very hard to navigate the terrain right here. Many residents who spoke to Joy News had no idea what the name of their local assemblyman was. The few that did know him did not know him by face, but only by name. They called him Nana Addo. Several of them, including the chief for the area, David Ni Okwe I, appealed to the member of parliament for the constituency, Adwoa Safo, to come to their aid as they were in worry need of good roads.
Actually, Adwoa Safo know our problem. Before you come to power, when she is in power, but when she came to us, he said their government is not in power. So when their government come to in power, they will come to our aid.
You told me this in 2016?
Exactly. But when she come to power, we did not see anything. So I don't know whether she just come to, tell us, fabricate anything to us. Yeah. If she is in front of me, I will talk to her. She is not doing anything in this area.
It is yet to be known when the roads here are slated for construction. Residents can only hope that it does come soon.
Well, we're back. I told you about the newspaper, so we're ready to do the newspapers. Wherever you find yourself, we say we're grateful. Good morning to you, pharmacist Sally Fukombat. You work with the Boku Presbyterian Hospital. You're the head of primary healthcare pharmacy, as well as your wife, Flora, who works with the Ghana Immigration Service, posted to the Misiga border. Right. I know some people don't like me to mention. Oh, good morning to you.
Good morning, Roy.
Yeah, mine.
Yeah, whatever.
How are you? You look like your voice is somewhere.
I'm okay. I'm
need
not
to drink
sure
some water, some hot water.
I need my hot tea.
Okay.
And lemon.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Since
then
March you've been drinking that.
Then I'll be fine.
Corona make people they shake.
It's a ritual. You have to take care of you.
Yeah.
You mentioned Corona. Listen, I think it's been a while since we went on the Ghana Health Service website to give you an update on the coronavirus situation. Some people are very relaxed. It's become, we say this is the new normal, but it doesn't mean that the precautions must also be thrown away. I was listening to a report on the BBC where the Africa Disease Control Center is worried because on the entire continent, the figures are still going up. South Africa is still very much in the lead, almost half of the cases in Africa, but that's because they're doing massive testing still. So this is the picture of Ghana from our own Ghana Health Service website. Our active cases, 3,313. Confirmed cases. And Ghana, by the way, is one of those countries that they are watching on the continent of Africa, 39,075. The deaths now stand at 199. New cases, 574. So pretty much, coronavirus is still with us. The fact that we don't talk about it every day like we used to doesn't mean that we should relax on the precautions. So please take the necessary precautions as you step out today. We've seen in the Awoshi protest, for instance, people absolutely didn't bother to even wear the mask. We're not bothering, but the disease is still with us and we still don't have a cure. So please protect yourself wherever you go.
That's a reality of our situation.
Exactly. All right, let's settle for the papers. We've got the Graphic, the Times, the Finder, the Tens Business on Thursdays, the Daily Statesman, the Daily Guide, the Daily Dispatch, and Gifty Andwape, our colleague, will be joining us to do the review. But let's begin with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page of the Graphic. Footbridges on holiday. Pedestrians put lives at risk on roads. It's just like the coronavirus and the washing of hands and the wearing of masks. Even with and this story, the Graphic is highlighting the fact that even though they've got the footbridge right there, people still prefer to cross the road and put their lives at risk. So you see that on the front page of the paper pretty shortly, where the people are crossing the road and the bridge is as empty. And it's just right there. Nobody even bothering using that footbridge. Pedestrians have abandoned many footbridges meant to aid their movements across some major roads in Accra and continue to jaywalk at the cost of their lives, while the footbridges lie predominantly idle. Some of the pedestrians, including children, meander their way through moving vehicles as they move from one side of the road to the other. Some of them also jump over walls and barricades in their bid to cross over to other sides of the road, putting their lives and those of other road users in danger. This is something that we all see. Some of us are even guilty of it. We do it, and it's a shame, because when There are no bridges. We talk about it. We make so much noise. I remember the Adenta situation. So much noise. We put pressure on the
whole
state.
Campaign.
Yes, we put pressure on the state. And then once the bridges come up, we find all sorts of excuses. Oh, it is too long. Oh, there is not this. Oh, people are doing it anyway. Oh, it is just once. I mean, yeah. Okay, let's do the other stories on the front page. EC inaugurates Adjudication Committee on Voters Register. That exercise is wrapping up tomorrow.
Today.
Tomorrow, Friday. Roland, don't confuse me. But there will be a mop-up exercise. So please register. That way you can
You mean the
vote.
registration itself? When it's
The registration itself.
It's
There's a
ending
mop-up exercise
Over
on the
the
7th and 8th of August, correct?
Very
Yes, all right.
At the district offices.
District offices.
They had intended to
will-
do it at some selected centers in the communities, but now they decided to do it in the district office.
Do you even know where your district's electoral commission office is?
I don't know. But
Uh-huh.
if you know you haven't registered, you got to find out.
So, yeah,
I mean, that's the reality of the situation.
yeah, but if you haven't registered, then find the ones closer to you and register so that you don't bother with the district office issue. President opens University of Environment and Sustainable Development. Let's check out the center spread of the paper. House amends Minerals Income Fund bill for efficiency, and that house is the House of Parliament. GIZ Swiss Embassy donates PPE to a Greek ministry, and then NDPC launches book on WASH program. On the back page, 8 foreigners before court for cyber crime. It says 18 foreigners who allegedly entered the country illegally to engage in cyber crime have been put before the Wa Circuit Court. The accused, believed to be Nigerians, were arrested last Saturday after they had duped unsuspecting people of various sums of money. The accused persons are facing 3 counts of obtaining electronic medium falsely, possession of illegal devices, and failing to comply with the imposition of a ban on travel into the country. The rest of the story you can check out. Humanitarian organization donates PPE to Presby Church. That's my church, a church-based humanitarian organization. ACT Alliance Ghana Forum has presented personal protective equipment with 221,000 Ghana cedis to the Presbyterian Church of Ghana for distribution to selected health institutions in the country. You see, we're not selfish, we're giving it out. All right, Gifty, is Gifty with us? Okay, not yet. So let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Front page of the Times. New varsity takes off September as President opens first phase of University of Environment and Sustainable Development. Magdan applauds government for 100 billion Ghana cedis or Batampa COVID-19 recovery plan. Former President Mahama registers for voter ID card out of Bole, but you know, fallout of that, especially the speech that he made, making reference to 8 years of this administration when it's not 8. It happens. Dr. Doris.
It was a slip, but good for the
But it was a serious one. It was a serious one.
It was a slip, big slip, but good for the politics.
I was listening to Mustafa Hamid on Joy FM on Top Story, and the question that he was asked, the first point he wanted to make was, oh, by the way, we want to say thank you to the former president for giving us 8 years. All right, let's go back to
slip, good for the politics, but
Charlie.
it was a slip. So it's okay. It's good for the music.
Back on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, Dr. Doris Date goes home today. May her soul rest in peace. Fetish priestess in court over alleged murder of 90-year-old woman. Let's give you a bit of that update. So it says Serena Filipina Mohammed, the alleged fetish priestess arrested in connection with the lynching of 90-year-old Madame Equiadent, was yesterday remanded by the Bole District's Magistrate Court in the Savannah region. Security personnel had a tough time controlling the large crowd that besieged the court premises to catch a glimpse of the 40-year-old suspect. Her plea was not taken, and the court presided by Andrew Kojua ordered the suspect to reappear on August 20. Serena Mohammed caused laughter when she told the magistrates that, quote, "Your worship, I can even treat you of any sickness you're suffering from, unquote. The suspect, it is recalled, declared 90-year-old Madam Ekia Denter, which led to her lynching by a mob at Kafaba in the East Gonja municipality of the Savannah region on July 24 this year. She was bold enough to say that to the judge, but I guess the person she fails to treat is herself. We'll see how this case goes. We'll continue to give you the update, but on page 3 they have some related stories. Crime, police hunts woman for allegedly beating rival to death is also another story there. A woman identified as Christiana is being sought by the Eastern Regional Police Command for allegedly beating her rival to death. Christiana accused her rival Millicent Opoku 40 of flirting with her husband at Trom Francis, a suburb of Koforidua in the Eastern region, and attacked her. Okay, that bit of what she used in attacking, I think a stick. It's not very clear in the paper. Inflicting bruises on her face and back. The deceased was found helpless in the room of her rival's husband, was rushed to the St. Joseph's Hospital, but was pronounced dead on arrival, and the body has been deposited at the morgue of the same hospital awaiting autopsy. Sasa. You know, I think some of the things you do it and it will hit you like, what have I done? This is so useless. You know, taking somebody's life because they are flirting with your husband. Now, you are the one who is going to suffer. You won't even see that husband of yours if the Lord deals with you appropriately. It's a shame, Charlie. Also, man gets 20 years for defiling 12-year-old daughter. Oh, Charlie. Oh, and then 4 non-residents grabbed for attempting to register. All right, let's do the back page. NRSA, that's the Western Region Office of the National Road Safety Authority, expresses worry over road crashes involving young people. And then Rotary Club to provide 12 boreholes to WA communities. Those are the 2 stories on the back page of the Times. Roland?
Right, let's do the Daily Dispatch newspaper. And I always love the Daily Dispatch for this. Good morning to you, Uncle Ben. Always breaking down the numbers. Yeah, we just had a conversation with the Statistical Service. So getting numbers, always good for us. So it has on the front page, focus on 2020 voters register and ethnicity. The full story on the back page, though. Just to tell you about the breakdown. It's asked by close of August 6, registration to enable Ghanaians vote in 2020 general elections will come to an end, and that's today. So since about 4% of Ghanaians vote on ethnic basis, we continue our analysis on the 2020 voters register and ethnic groupings with today's focus on Ashanti and Central regions, and they bring you all the breakdown. Look, the Daily Dispatch is a paper for you this morning. Get all the latest, at least snipers of information to make sure that your mind is always working. So
today is the last day.
Yeah, I said
for the exercise. Yeah.
So Accra SkyTrain project remains on course. Joe Gatti. Yeah, I love you. It's supposed to have been in August, but don't worry. We'll get it, ultimately. Now, Rollins is like a Sun Trophy bird, Kwame Nahor. That's kind of stuff.
Charlie, this book.
Mama is reading that book. She's promised to read it
this book.
by tomorrow, to finish reading it by tomorrow morning. So if we don't get it from tomorrow morning, that's the content, or do analysis, a review of it. Charlie, then we're in for trouble. But one person who has finished the book is Joseph Frimpong, Kofi Frimpong Akable. He's finished it, so we know that we have one person who has finished it. The next person who has to finish that book is Mama Views.
What kind of pressure is this? Have you read it?
No.
Are you reading it?
I've not bought it yet.
But listen, apart from the controversies,
one I say on John Mahama.
Okay.
I started reading.
Well, that I didn't read.
Yeah, I started reading Obeda Samuel's book.
Okay.
Yesterday. And the whole of the night.
I'm grateful for one thing, though. Listen, the book has generated a lot of controversies. We've seen a lot of reactions, even yesterday.
So talking about controversy, let me just run this by.
It's getting us to read. See, you're digging into the history books.
So it says Rollins is like a Sun Trophy bird, Kwame Nahor, and it says when you get to know him better, it is a different matter. He can be domineering, vindictive, and fearsome. Now, the nearest analogy will be the Akan proverb about the bird, Santrophe, or nightjar in English, belonging to the family for which the proverb states, loosely in English, that the nightjar bird, if you catch it, you have caught a curse. If you let it go, you have let go of something precious. Now he continues, Nomi, Professor Kwame Nahoy, in the book, please. Rawlings has a very attractive personality. Now, when you first meet him, he shows results because he's a very hard worker, and therefore it is good not to let him go when you have him, and otherwise you would have lost something precious. On the other hand, he can be very divisive a character who is incapable of keeping and sustaining friends. Once he's your friend, he would like his enemies to be your enemies. And therefore, if you keep him, you would be keeping a curse, as his enemies would also become your enemies and will curse you forever. It means that the liabilities of Rawlings will also rub on you. That's what he's trying to say. Now he continues, the other positive attribute of Rawlings is that as a leader, he is decisive. He is the type of leader who would say, I want a 100 economist. I don't want the economists who will confuse me on the other hand, on one hand, and on the other hand. But even if you present yourself as a 200 economist and he chooses one of those hands, you can be sure that he will go with that hand all the way. He also continues to say, he's also the type of leader who would not like advisors who would give advice on the basis of all things being equal. Because he continues again, knowing very well that in this world, all things are never equal. There's no equality in this world. I love the Rawlings philosophy. Yeah, there's no fairness. So if you know that, you tackle the world as it is.
Is this still his philosophy, though? Many years have passed.
Yeah, I think so. Well. Then there's this last one has generated a lot of controversy. I remember myself and Kofi or Joseph Akabila again about it. And this is just the last paragraph. In my encounters with him at PNDC meetings and at cabinet meetings, I could tell that he did not understand many of the very technical issues that used to be debated. Oftentimes, he would feign disinterest and would be looking through the window or playing with his toy planes. But once he got a sense of the direction of the meeting, he would jump on board and ensure the implementation of the decision or the policy. Reminds me of some of the Godfather movies I've watched. You know, nice. Well, let's see. So let me do the Daily Guide, as on the front page. I can't stop chasing witches, says Hajia Filipina. She's the woman who says she was possessed at the time that she was lynching.
The same woman who said who told the judge that she could cure the judge of any sickness.
Well, she can.
Yeah. But herself?
I'm sure she's on the way of curative actions. We'll get there. Nana commissions Eastern Varsity. Good one. Then we need more schools. NDC MPs run away from free SHS question. Good question. And MPP Zongo man rewarded for COVID-19 fight. Meanwhile, EC gets adjudication committee. On the back page it's all sports. And Kotoko name new CEO tomorrow. Nana Yamponsa has his picture attached there. And there's the Court of Arbitration for Sports postponing GFA Palmer case again. And a number of stories about Messi and Arsenal.
That postponement, though, I mean, I heard some people say they don't respect us. I mean, this...
Oh, why?
Yeah, because they didn't give us reasons for the postponement. But then and then they were citing the Manchester City Champions League issue and how they quickly resolved that issue. And then this is the second postponement, by the way. I think we haven't touched on the Daily Statesman, so that's the last paper. And Roland, there's a reaction. There's another Rawlings reaction that we would bring to our viewers on myjoyonline.com following that book by the professor. The Daily Statesman, your liar assembly members tell untrustworthy Muhammad, that's in quotes. Voters registration, 10 foreigners face court, 3 jailed. More confusion rocks NDC. Trained babies with sharp teeth. 10 hits on Ahoy, Akufo-Addo Commission's first Eastern Region Public University. And they will tell you, well, it was started by the previous administration. There's some spots on the back page. That's it for the Daily Statesman newspaper. We'll get myjawline.com ready so we can bring you that update. But there's a story on page 18 in the Daily Graphic newspaper about 19 filed to contest flag bearer national positions. 19 stalwarts of the Convention People's Party have filed their nominations to contest various positions when the party goes to Congress on August 15, 2020. So details of that you'd find in the Daily Graphic. And then, you know, the what's on the front page of the graphic about people abandoning the footbridges. They actually have some pictures that you might want to take a look at. Maybe you identify your own self in that. Abandoning the bridge and either scaling the wall or queuing so you can cross. And it's interesting, in some of the pictures you find that there are even police, as in a man in uniform at least, standing and watching. So let's see if you identify yourself. You're one of those who do this. Shame on you, by the way. I hope you find your face in the graphic. Let's do myjawline.com, and then we can talk more about some of the stories. I want to bring the Rawlings reaction. It's actually our top story on myjawline.com. It says recent activities may cause NDC to collapse. That's Rawlings predicting there. If you click on the story, it says founder of the National Democratic Congress and Ghana's former president, Jerry John Rawlings, has dropped a bizarre prediction about his party. According to Mr. Rawlings, recent activities may cause the party to collapse and drown if care is not taken. Quotes, and this was in the Facebook post: much as I find it tiring and tedious to be engaging in self-defense when I've given my all these years, I'll soon deal with the callous agenda of bile by the likes of Kwame Ahoy, who are desperately seeking control of the NDC party, on quote. Former president said this when he took to Facebook to react to NDC stalwart Professor Kwame Ahoy's book titled Working with Rawlings. Okay. All right, that's one of the many stories on myjawline.com. Let's go down, check out the rest. Parliament losing its integrity as absent MPs are signed for by colleagues. Minority Chief Whip. We're discussing this issue here on our show this morning. Monetization of politics creating unstable parliament, endangering democracy, according to the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu. This story, I'm a bit surprised, didn't make it in the papers. Slawusi given 48 hours to appear before Parliament over the Kelny GVG matter. That issue is up again because there was an urgent question that was filed by some judge, and the communications minister is expected to answer. She has not done so, and so the speaker has given her up to Friday, which is just tomorrow, and hopefully that would happen. Call Ahoy to order over working with Rawlings' book, Voter Youth Network to NDC Hierarchy. It's a book. It's already out. Like, I don't know how.
Maybe there should have been an injunction.
I will build an equal society. That's according to former President Mahama. Rawlings had no planned strategy on how to materially develop Ghana. Also contained in Professor Ahoy's book, Free SHS has nothing to do with students wanting to cheat in examination. That's according to Professor Stephen Adai. That brings us to another conversation that we're having on the show later this morning. Remember yesterday when we talked about this subject of students saying, oh, you're too strict, and this has to do with the Chunibwa Senior High School, but we also did play back some videos from some of the students complaining that they have solved past questions, didn't see the questions in the exam hall. Subsequently, we've had reports of some students threatening teachers and head teachers, and it's bringing back the whole issue of indiscipline. Some of our callers yesterday said it's because of the rights, the child rights, things that we've been preaching all these years. That's brought us to this point of indiscipline in our young people. So we want to, discuss this matter thoroughly and bring good perspective to it. As parents, as citizens, we've got educationists joining us, and one of the advocates, I guess if he was here yesterday, then the callers would have blamed him. Bright Appiah is a child rights advocate. He'll also be joining us on this conversation. I hold the view, though, that rights have nothing to do with discipline. I mean, you still have to uphold the rights of the child. If they are in discipline, you've got to deal with that. It couldn't be because of that, but maybe we're failing in some ways. So we will discuss this matter. Roland, is there anything you want to talk about?
I just thought that we need to make sure that the relevant issues of concerns that we have about whether it's tribalism, bigotry, and then issues being raised on either side. And I'm talking the MPP and NDC here, within the political space that we find ourselves, is mended before we get into the main electioneering. The NDC is crying foul about concerns they have. We have plethora of videos that have gone viral about security forces. And I'm talking security forces because immediately you bring in a combination of the military, the immigration service, and even the police onto the ground. And we're talking about the registry, which is ending today. It gives us another perspective as to how a very civil activity could involve so many people. And I think that the two parties, and I'm saying the two parties because it's only these two who have occupied the seat of government in this Fourth Republic. They need to sit down and make sure we have some resolution to this matter. On the ground, there are concerns. And I think that these concerns are genuine and they need to be addressed. The MPP says, oh, you're just making politics out of it. The NDC says these are real issues on the ground. Now, we need to come to the middle no matter what we think, because we are one people, and it's only that way that we can develop as a people. When we develop, then our country also develops.
Yeah. Roland, you have friends in the immigration, right? What's their job? They are the border, they are responsible for border security, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. It's fascinating that in this kind of era, we're comfortable using the military the way that we're using them, involved in these matters, for instance, and we haven't absorbed our first options, like our plan A. So the plan A is to involve the military straight away. I'm a bit concerned, and it's good. Your call is appropriate. Let's watch the space. I don't think we should quickly involve the military. I was looking at Gifty, and it's sad that Gifty couldn't join us today. She's head of our security desk. She had passed on, the Banda issue. We're asking about what the parties had signed. She forwarded some document to me that's supposed to be what the parties had put their signatures to.
Is it the one from the army or the document itself?
No, this is the document itself, like a 2-page document stating out what they shouldn't do and what the Regional Security Council is expected to do. But I was just a bit confused, and we hopefully will get to talk about this matter with Gifty, and then we can authenticate what was forwarded to me, and then we can discuss it. But the Regional Security Council, irrespective whether a group of people have put their signatures to a document or not, they've got a job on the ground. They are supposed to ensure that there is security, and they are supposed to pick up intelligence on the ground and pass it on to the necessary agencies. So you actually don't need politicians to sit down and sign and say we agree to these terms, when really with the Electoral Commission, they've got their own rules already. You don't have to sit down with a group of people for them to come up with their own electoral rules. We've got the electoral rules from the Electoral Commission. The court has already said they are the people who are supposed to organize elections. If we're going according to their rules and you have your security agencies and what they are supposed to do, then we really don't need another kind of agreement from political parties on the ground, for instance, like in Banda. So this matter is one that we certainly will have to discuss and look at whatever agreement, but the exercise is coming to a close today. It's just a bit worrying that we're putting the military, the soldiers in the front line, that's our plan A, real quick. When I was thinking overnight that, isn't immigration supposed to be doing the border security duties? Anyway, You're still here on the AM show. We're continuing a conversation we started yesterday, and today we want to focus on maintaining student discipline while upholding their rights. Some people seem to suggest that it's because of the rights issues that we've talked about for a very long time. That's why students are allowed to do the sort of things that we see them do today, particularly with the reaction to the WAEC examination, the paper they sat for on Monday, the integrated science. But let's take you to Damongo. Students of Ndeura Jakpa Senior High Technical School in Damongo in the West Gonja municipality have gone on rampage, vandalizing schools' properties in protest against the 1.5-meter social distancing sitting in the ongoing West Africa examination, council examination in the school. The students, who were mostly boys with few girls among them, first destroyed the lighting system and plunged the whole school into darkness. Part of the ceiling of a new 6-unit classroom block that was handed over to the school to end double track were also removed. But here's the story.
The new blow went under attack.
Yeah. Block that was.
I don't need a supplement.
He's gone beyond border.
Huh?
He has gone beyond border. Oh, there's something.
Have you seen your top there?
Yeah, I'll go there.
I should do this.
How did they manage to reach up there to do this?
Look at this is where they climb.
Oh,
The best.
wow.
That's the best.
They threw the whole school into a darkness. I don't need a supplement.
He's gone beyond border.
Huh?
He has gone beyond border. Oh, there's something.
Showing live on air now. The video that you see, actually students of Ndeura Jakpa Senior High School, Senior High Technical School in Damongo in the West Gonja municipality, as part of their protests, their disagreement of the social distancing in the examination hall. This is to show their unhappiness, and what they did was to tap into the school's lighting system, and that resulted in total darkness. And this is part of their them protesting the fact that the arrangements in the examination hall is one that they are not happy with. They said they are overdoing the social distancing in the examination hall. This is not the first time we've seen the Cheneboa Senior High School also in Kumasi also reacting in a way that has been condemned by many. The fact that their headmaster is strict with the supervision. So this is just adding to the stories that we've heard and the stories that we've told you. There's also another one that came in yesterday from my colleague Martina Bugri from Tamale. And the story was that the exams officer of the Tamale Senior High School, Alex Nair, is asking for protection for his family following attempts by some students to attack him. Mr. Nair, who spoke to Joy News, said his only crime was not allowing the student to engage in any malpractice during their integrated science paper during the exam. Here's a little of what he shared.
Oh, the only reason is simple. The point was that I did not allow them to cheat or to be engaged in more during the exam.
Okay, if we can, we'll also show you some of the videos that have gone viral with students showing on their unhappiness, really, with how supervision has gone.
Fellow Ghanaians, this is a letter from the Form 3s to the president. Nana, then what you do? You make we solve this book from cover to cover, cover to cover, page to page, English, already, everything.
This is how far we have come. Yesterday, when we started this conversation, many people thought, no, it's because we've talked about their right. See where we are today, threatening, they're threatening heads of schools, they're destroying school infrastructure, and they're even videoing themselves and showing their faces. They simply don't care. So let's start the conversation right here. Mr. Bright Appiah is Executive Director, Child Rights International, author of A Child is a Subject of Law. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Bright Appiah, if you can hear me, a very good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
How are you?
I am very well, thank you. In studios, the General Secretary of the National Association of Teachers, Mr. Thomas Musa. Good morning to you as well. Thank you for being here.
And good morning to your viewers. And good morning to my big brother, Bright Appiah. Yeah, don't worry. I'll certainly fulfill my promise.
I can be the middle person. Please pass it through me and then I'll deliver it. In the course of the conversation, we will also have Mr. Anthony Boateng, who's Deputy Director with the Ghana Education Service, on this conversation. Let me begin with you, Mr. Bright Appiah, because you've been preaching the subject of rights. Is what we are seeing today as a result of rights?
Well, I don't think so. Let me be straightforward, because what happened or what you're experiencing has nothing to do with right. And as you've mentioned, if you look at my book that I have authored, I trace the history of right, and right has nothing to do with indiscipline. And if any society is showing that aspect, it is the more reason why we have established a principle that all of us must follow, so that people would live up to their responsibilities as well as they are enjoying their right. But if they go contrary to some of these principles that have been established, that we enjoy out of right and also out of the responsibility that we give, then nobody would come to the conclusion that what students are doing that has something to do with right and all that. Absolutely not.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. A lot of callers yesterday suggested that. Mr. Musa, is this what you're teaching our students? Because this is a reflection of what should we blame this on?
Thank you very much. Good morning once again to our listeners and viewers. I want us to tread cautiously at this point, because whenever there is an issue like this, there is every temptation to apportion blame. For some people, they may want to blame teachers. For some, may want to blame parents. Some will want to blame the students themselves. Some will even want to blame the Ghana Education Service. And I think that it is too early in the day to start asking as to what went wrong and what didn't go wrong. If you study the video footage carefully, you will realize that there was an issue of past questions, and past questions is not today. I mean, it is a common knowledge that anytime a student is going to write his or her exam, you certainly need to make reference to the past to give you a fair idea of what you should expect. So for them making reference to the past questions, I think there is nothing wrong with it. I mean, it is something that we all went through it. But as to whether there was a promise that what they are learning is what will come, it is another issue that must be investigated. Because that there is no established fact that somebody told the students that these were the questions that are coming. There is nothing like that. The second thing is, if you listen to the one of the comment made by the students that somebody collected money from them or something like that, that is also a subject of investigation, which the Ghana Education Service will have to look into. And having said all those things, I think that WAEC must be commended, and all the people who assisted WAEC in conducting the exam must be commended, because you see, if we do not take care by yielding to some of these things, we will end up producing students who will one day become our teachers, will become medical doctors, will become lawyers. And in producing our human resource, we must let them go through the required training to acquire the skills, not necessarily the certificate, but the ability to deliver on their mandate. That should be our focus. And so, regarding as to who did not do his work well and all that, I think it is early days yet. And I believe that the Ghana Education Service will want to investigate the whole thing. So I want us to say that we should not...
I think the issue of past questions and they not coming, if you're expecting it and you've actually put all your hopes on it, and then it doesn't happen and you're disappointed. That happens to all of us.
Exactly.
But I'm looking at the reaction of these students. Maybe let me start in terms of the reaction with you, Mr. Pierre. What do you make of how they've reacted in terms of the distractions, somebody urging them on to continue destroying things? We've heard about how teachers have been threatened, and we told you this story in Tamale where at least one person was threatened. His family has also been threatened, and he's asking for security. So they are not acting like children, are they? These are not actions of children.
Oh, not at all, not at all. And for me, seeing children doing that or students doing that, there are two things that comes to mind. One is when we were giving them the past questions, what was the motive for doing that? Because in the past, students do have access to past questions, and they tried as much as possible, first of all, to understand how WAEC set questions and to possibly see whether or not some of the questions will repeat so that at least they'll be conversant with it. But in this time, government has never bought past questions for students directly. Instances where they will buy it and put it at the library so children would have access to it and read. But this time we had experience where we bought it directly for them. And for students, if you do that, there are two ways that you can express your concern to them. Either you express it like you make it known to them, but also you can also make your intention known to them by implied conditions and all that. So clearly I felt that the decision of government to buy past questions for them is a good one, but I feel that the communication didn't go well. So they feel that, well, because we are the first batch that are going to write the first batch that are going to write the exams in terms of the free senior high school, therefore there will be some kind of leverage for us because a system want to prove that what I have done is okay, more students will pass. So there's all kinds of expectations that we didn't manage properly. For that matter, students felt disappointed because they feel that if you have given them past questions for them to solve, then there's a clear indication that you're going to send a question from there, which we not solely blame the authorities for it or the student, but it is all about how we manage some of these things and how we transit policy from political desk into the and place it within the.
This is expected. We're using technology to connect to Mr. Appiah, so he will come back to us when the connection is a bit more stable. But Mr. Musa, I was asking about the reaction.
Exactly.
We understand the disappointment, but reaction leading to indiscipline, that's unacceptable.
In fact, the reaction of the students must be condemned. It should not be encouraged, because these are our future leaders. And per Article 41 of the Constitution, they must understand that they have rights and responsibility. These are students who are preparing to enter the tertiary level of education. And within the next 3 to 4 years, they will graduate, and some of them will be going to the teacher training, some of them will become teachers, some of them will be going to the law school and the medical sciences, among others. So looking at looking at where they have gotten now, and the kind of behavior that we are seeing and the footage we are seeing, it is not something that we need to encourage in our country, and we must discourage it. And I will say that it is disturbing and must not, I mean, nobody will actually accept this behavior anywhere. Even if you see your child in there, you should be disappointed. Having said that, I earlier on made a statement to the fact that there is nothing wrong giving past questions to somebody and students. We have all gone through it. It gives you the idea of what really happened in the past, and it will also enable you to know what you should expect. And if you go and what you have studied, if the thing comes, fine. Thanks be to God. But if you go in there and what you are expecting didn't come, you manage with what you have. We have all gone through it. But like Writer Appiah said, and as I indicated earlier on, as to whether there was a promise that what the document we are giving to you, there will certainly be questions out of it. It is another issue.
What did you hear?
It's a subject of investigation. I don't know anything as to whether there was a promise or something. Okay. I cannot speak to that.
Okay.
But it is only an investigation that can establish that. The other thing too is that the students were saying in the footage that they paid money. That is also a subject of investigation. And so when we have an investigative body put in place to look at all those things, then we can establish the facts, and then lessons that ought to be learned from it, we all learn from it. But what really happened in the schools is unfortunate, it's unprecedented, and I think that we must do everything to nip this particular thing in the bud. The next time we learn to manage the expectation of our children. And the last thing I want to add on this particular thing is that, you see, it is becoming like do and die affair that you certainly must. I mean, if I want to become a lawyer, so because of that, whatever it takes for me to become a lawyer, it must be.
Is it whose expectation is that? Is it the student or is the parents?
You see, the students are part, in particular the pressure from parents. If the parent is a lawyer, the expectation of the parent is that my son should become a lawyer. And so everything that child will need to become a lawyer, to the extent of assisting that particular child, some people don't have a problem doing that. And these are issues, like I was telling you, these are issues that must be established. And as a country and as a people, we must be careful the way we are going. Look, education has 3 domains. It is not only about the head. You can train somebody who has a very sharp mind, academically good and all that. But if the person's value system, the person's interest, and the person's, how do you call it, patriotism is not there, then we are in for trouble. Because these are people who will be ruling and be managing affairs of this particular country. And so it's very critical that in as much as we are focusing on the cognitive aspect, we should not forget on the affective and also the psychomotor, so that we develop a holistic individual. Like the Bible says, train the child the way he should go. And that when the child is old, he will not depart from it. What shall it benefit us if we equip these children with all the knowledge they need, and they go out there and they come to plunder our resources? Then it amounts to nothing. And so this calls for a collective responsibility. Let us all find out, have this matter investigated, where we got it wrong. Let us correct it so that we rewrite our wrongs, and next time we'll not repeat it.
Great. Before I go to Mr. Bright Appiah, there's some news coming in. Students of the School of Hygiene at Korle Bu have besieged the premises of the Ministry of Sanitation, protesting the failure of the ministry to pay allowances due them over the academic period. My colleague Nancy Emefa-Gyradossi will be live, and we will bring you what is happening on the ground with this particular matter. Ms. Appiah, you didn't quite land when we lost you. Hello, Bryce Appiah.
I was on talking, so I didn't know where I ended. But let me start from where General Secretary ended. I strongly believe that what happened is unfortunate, and we need to draw the distinction between indiscipline and right. And I'm establishing that this has nothing to do with right. And one of the institutions that we have mandated to train our children is our educational system. And once they are there, they are expected to obey the rules and regulations that governs it, provided it does not contradict the provisions of the Constitution as well as the Children's Act. So we cannot just take what they did on the surface that is a matter of right. But let's also look at this. I really want to understand what is the motive for government to say that we want to bypass questions for this particular group of years. So once we are able to establish that, then it sends a communication to the system that probably government has made us special in terms of policy arrangement. Government feels that, okay, this is the first time, therefore, government is going to do everything possible for us to pass. That is why they are putting in some of these interventions and all that. Again, we have also designed our educational system such a way that once you take exams, the concept, our examination system is not designed for majority of students to pass, but it is designed on the basis of how many students will fail. So when students go into examination hall and they know very well that they are unable to answer certain questions, they feel that their lives has come to an end, and gradually the ambitions of life is also ending. So this is purely based on policy issue. And I must also say that when you visit some of the schools, the relationship between the school, the management and student is not always the best. It is an approach where we ask you to do this, we ask you to do that, and they don't invite their input into it. So when you combine all this, you get the kind of result that we are getting. But again, we are establishing that, look, what they did is totally wrong, is indiscipline, they have violated school rules, and any law that applies to it, we have to treat it as such. Because even in the Juvenile Justice Act, the law says that if you are 12 years, you are responsible for any criminal act and any tortious act that you conduct as a child. So if they have violated from that principle, I think that whatever it is that we need to do to correct that behavior, we need to do it. Okay. But however, we should also begin to question policy arrangement and how we design policies, and then put in the environment for people to have their own interpretation as to what those policies are. And I strongly believe that this is what resulted into the kind of expectations that the children had when they were going to write the exams. Okay, great. We'll come back to what structures are on the ground. Why are students threatening head teachers and they seem to not have anything to do, or how do they even respond? And we'll set the example. But let's go to what is breaking now. Students of the School of Hygiene at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital besieging the premises of the Ministry of Sanitation. Nancy Emefa-Gyradossi is on the ground. Nancy, explain what's happening on the ground to us.
So I am currently at the Sanitation Ministry, and from the noise you hear from the background are sounds of students from the School of Hygiene. They are the final year students, to be precise, and their statement is quite simple. From the song they're even singing, it's simple. They want their allowances paid to them. They said since 2017, when the allowances were installed, they have not received any money from government. And they have tried to meet the sanitation minister several times, but all of these are proving futile. If you remember, on the 20th of June this year, they were supposed to write their final year exams, but they boycotted the exams because they say that right when they write the exams, that will be the end and that they will not receive the allowances. Well, let me try and look for the president of this particular group, this is the School of Hygiene, to tell us why exactly they are picketing. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me hear from your president. Thank you very much. Now, first of all, tell me, why are you picketing this morning?
Okay, why we are picketing this morning is that Ministry of Sanitation has refused to give us our allowance 3 years. From 2017, that Nanado promised us and he stood on School of Hygiene forecourt that he's going to restore our allowance. So he's bringing us to Ministry of Sanitation so that everything will be fast. And now, Ministry of Sanitation has refused. 3 years now, we have engaged them severally, and even at times they are trying to ignore us. Last 2 weeks we were here booking to meet the minister, but we've tried severally and minister is trying to ignore us. So today we want minister to know that we are serious. That is why we are here. We brought our mattresses, our buckets, everything. We want financial clearance before we leave this ministry. Without that, we are not going. So that is the main reason why all the schools are here.
So I remember that 2 weeks ago, you guys boycotted your exams. After that boycott, did you hear anything from government?
Okay, that boycott, that very day, ministry delegated the chief director, the HR to the school to convince the executive that we should write the exams and go. They will do something about it. But and they even gave us a promise. We came into an agreement that they are going to bring us a letter that captures the budget, that's going to the finance, and they will give us a time to wait for the clearance. And we were waiting for them. Nothing of that sort happened. Wednesday happened. Thursday, the same thing. So Friday, we sent delegates to the ministry to remind them of what they told us, that we were waiting. And the chief director told them that they should still go and write the exams. So that's the main reason why all the time they are trying and convince us and trying to lie to us. So the ministry is telling us lies. Like the ministry is lying to us. That's the main reason. Now we don't trust the ministry again. We want our money. There is nothing that we will hear. No allowance, no exams. We will not write our exams. Now we want to tell Nanado. We want to tell Nanado that we are very serious. No allowance, no vote. Nana is saying that 4 more, but we will show Nana that 4 less, because schools of hygiene students, we are on the same campus with the nursing at Kolebu. We have 3 schools of hygiene. We have Ho, Tamale, and Kolebu. And when we are there, Alawana. But schools of hygiene, you go and check on the phone, nothing of that sort. So school of hygiene, financially, we are all broke. Psychologically, we are all broke down. So we want to tell another that he should restore the allowance for us. So that is the main reason why we are here. We want to tell the ministry that we are serious. We were here from the dawn. We slept here. Our buckets and our mattresses are here. So that's the main reason why we are here.
So we are not leaving until you hear from him?
We are not leaving, no allowance. No, we are not leaving until we receive an alert or even financial clearance. With the financial clearance, we know that we are convinced enough. Then we can go and sit for the exams. But without that, we are sleeping here. So the time that they will start the allowance, without the allowance, we are not going. That's the main reason.
I will be engaging some of your colleagues soon, but you are the president.
Yes, please.
How badly has this affected you and your other seniors and those who have also not received the money?
Okay, so schools of hygiene, 2017, I was in first year, and a lot of students came to the school. But because of the allowance, most of them have gone out. Most of them have dropped from the school. Most of them have stopped. And now a class of 54 students, now it is 20 students. So just imagine.
Why?
Because of the allowance, because their families are not having, but because of the allowance that they came to the school. And even now, some of the students are owing school fees, 5,000 plus, 5,000 Ghana cedis. And the school, when you are owing, they will never allow you to write the exams. So if government is owing us and you are telling us to pay the fees before we write the exams, nursing students, they deduct it from their allowance. So we want the same thing to be done to us. We simply want the allowance. Now we have been affected. It is a comparative needs. The nursing students are on Kolebu campus. Now they shout, alawo, and now school of hygiene students, we are not receiving. We are under the health training institution, that's HTI, under the Ministry of Health, of which we are receiving the allowance. The school was established in 1925. Up to now, you want to downplay the school, we will not listen to them again. We just want our money. Simple. Our seniors who completed 2017, 2018, they are beneficiaries of the allowance, but they have completed school and they are in the house. So where is the money? That is the question that we always ask ourselves. And the ministry is telling us that it's due to some administrative bottleneck. Even if it was a Coca-Cola bottle, we could have opened it long time. A Sprite bottle, we could have opened it a long time. They are just trying to use some technical words to deceive us. Please, we want to tell Nanado that he should call the ministry. The ministry should give us our money. Without that, you're not leaving them. Simple as that.
So you heard that the president, but let me engage some of the who is the PRO? All right. So I'm sure as a PRO, you're supposed to be the mouthpiece of these students. Tell me, practical terms, how have some of these things affected them and what the members have been telling you?
Honestly, this allowance issue has affected us badly to the extent that there are a lot of students that we came with, and then because of this allowance that we didn't receive, they've stopped the school. A lot of them are now in the nursing training colleges. You see, the profession, they love it. But with what the government is doing to us, we don't really understand. Since 2017, we've petitioned them. We've done everything. This SRC current batch that came took it upon ourselves again to revive it. We fought, done everything, exhausted all the procedures. So now the ministry is still giving deaf ears to us. So I believe this is what they want to see. This time around, we need to get our money. We are receiving our money because it is due time for us to receive the money. We are beneficiaries, so why are they doing this to us? When the president restored the allowance, even before the president came to power, it was at the School of Hygiene forecourt that he promised that he was going to pay the allowance. And that he's going to give special treatment to students of schools of hygiene. So is this a special treatment? You just sent us from Ministry of Health to Sanitation Ministry, and now we are stranded. Why should it happen like that? Are we not human beings? Is the government trying to say that preventive medicine is no more important to the nation? Why do they even have passion for creative than preventive? If they are really treating students of hygiene well, and then as well as environmental health officers, you wouldn't even hear of cholera, malaria, this typhoid, all those kind of diseases. Why should it happen like this? We students of schools of hygiene have been advocating for washing of hands and using all the necessary protocols you have to follow to wash your hands. We have been preaching about this since time memorial. You see, so now the government, even when this corona time, you hear nurses. They are the only people that you are hearing. Had they forgotten there are safety officers there, there are environmental health officers there, there are OTs there who are making sure that everything is successful. When you go to the port, you will meet environmental health officers there who are frontline workers. You see, they are frontline workers, but when you mention, they are only interested in the nurses, the doctors. Why? Are they saying we are not important? Please, Nanado, please, we know you are a hearing president. We need our money. Without the money, we are not moving an inch. Thank you very much.
So let me speak to one, but let me just mention that I asked about the cumulative money, how much they're going to take in total, and I understand it's going to be somewhere above 12,000 Ghana cedis for each student, at least 400 Ghana cedis a month since the beginning of 2017. So putting it all together is supposed to be around 12,000. But let me engage some of the ladies. Let me find out. So you've heard from your president and also your PRO. Personally, how has this thing affected you and your name?
As for affecting, it has affected us greatly because we came with some students. Personally, in my class, we were 33, but now we are 22, which means 11 have dropped out. Most of them have gone to the nursing training schools. Some have gone to the teacher training schools just because of the allowance. Just imagine you and most when we see them, I don't know how to explain, but it looks yes, it's embarrassing because you see your friends getting money at least to fend for themselves. This is the case when we don't have money or we don't pay our fees, we can't write our exams. You call your parents to tell them at this age, or you call your parents to tell them, yeah, come home, school fees. I've been sacked from school because of fees. I can't write my exams. Look at these things. It's sometimes when you're allowed to write, you go outside and go and sit for about 30 minutes. And the exams, meanwhile, it's 1 hour, 30 minutes. When you go outside and go and sit for 1 hour, for 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, you're missing out. It is affecting our GPAs. It's affecting our results. Meanwhile, we need this GPAs to move forward. So these things, the allowance issue is really affecting us psychologically, emotionally, because our friends are laughing at us. Look, just imagine we are 3 schools there, and other people will take and wouldn't take. Just the Alawana Bono. It is embarrassing. You see them, we all go out. We all go somewhere and they can afford some petty things of life, and you can't even afford some petty things. It hurts. It really hurts, and it is some way. Yeah, it is yes.
You feel like you're in a lot of pain.
Yes.
Don't cry, don't cry. Which school are you coming from? Which of the schools are you coming from? Are you coming from
Accra? Yes, I'm in Accra School of Hygiene.
Okay. I'm sure that your plea will be heard by government. But let me know, who wants to speak to me? I want another lady. Come closer to me. Are you also from the Accra School?
Yeah, I'm from the Accra
You heard from your friend.
Yeah.
Are you also determined to sleep here until you hear from government?
I wouldn't have been here if I'm not determined to sleep here. Okay, but me, one thing I want to ask the government and the ministry is, during the launch of this allowance, the president allocated some amount to be paid to us. I think it's 232 million Ghana cedis. Where is our share of that money? Where is our share of that money? Because we all were part, they came for our details and everything. So if he said he's using 232 million Ghana cedis annually for the allowance, where is our share of that amount? Where is it? Is it with the ministry? Is it with Nanado? Or he took our amount out? We just want to know, where is our money? Because every day they are talking about administrative bottlenecks, and I just don't get it. Bottle buying. No, is it Coca-Cola bottle? Even if they were using their tank to open it since 2017, I think by now it would have been opened. So what are they trying to tell us? What are they trying to do? And when you come, it's as if they don't know you. They see you and they just pass. We don't expect them to come and be hugging us or something. But at least when we come, they should show that at least they know us and, like, do you get it? I don't even know what to say. It's like they are unconcerned about us. And that's why we are here. Until we hear something from them, like financial clearance or the allowance, we are not living here. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I understand that we have some of the old students, because you understand that in 2017 there were final year students, there were second year students, and all those people did not receive their money. So I would want to engage some of them and ask them how difficult life was and even how life is now. Which of you? Okay. So what's your name, please?
I'm Theresa.
Which year did you complete?
I'm in my final year.
You're also in your final year. I want somebody who has completed, or there's none here like that. Okay, but you tell me differently how you feel about this, because I have heard from Lydia, I've heard from another colleague of yours. You can sense the pain in their hearts.
It's really disheartening, honestly. I'm just sad. I don't want to cry, but it's painful. Like, I don't know. My concern is how the government takes curative medicine, like, so importantly, more than the preventive medicine, yes, because we always say prevention is better than cure, prevention is better than cure, and you are ignoring preventive medicine. We are equally of importance as the nurses and the doctors, so they shouldn't exempt us when they are telling us they are giving allowances to health trainees, and then they will exempt School of Hygiene. Like, School of Hygiene, Ministry of what? Sanitation and Water Resources. When we talk of sanitation, that is us. We are the sanitary inspectors. So will you just ignore us? We come, you just ignore us, snub us, and then you are just focusing on the nurses, the doctors, they are the frontliners. What about us? What about environmental health officers? So we are just pleading on the government. He should give heed to us. He should listen to us. He should come to our aid. The monies are with them. They should just release it and then we'll leave. If they are not giving us the money, we are not leaving.
You are from which of the schools?
School of Hygiene.
So you left Ho all the way, 3 hours journey to come here?
It's almost 4 hours, not 3 hours, 4 hours journey from Ho to Accra here.
So until you go, you're not going back home?
No, I'm not going back to Ho. We are not going. I'm not the only one. We are here. We are here to receive the money. We are not moving. We are not writing our exams, and we are not voting either. Yes. We need the money. We need the money.
All right. So, I want to take us to the other side because I see that a few students have decided to take time off to sleep, to show their preparedness and their determination to wait for the sanitation minister, to wait for her to come out and tell them something. Hi, please can I speak to you briefly? So, what's your name?
I'm Vera.
Vera. Why are you here? I see that you've arranged mattresses and you're sleeping down comfortably.
Yeah, because we've been told our money will be paid 3 years ago, and up till now the money is not here. So, since we are here, it's like we've been pleading and lobbying and everything. They are not hearing it. So now we have come to seek for explanation and clearance as to when we get our money.
So until you get your money?
We are not leaving until we get the money.
You're going to be lying here?
Sleeping. I've come with everything. My bag is here, my pillow, my bed sheet, everything is here. So until the money comes.
Are you from Accra or which?
Accra.
Accra.
Yes, please.
All right. So this is just... These are just a few students I was talking to, and so you can sense the frustrations in their voices, Mama V. Well, we are also waiting to hear from the sanitation minister. At least we'll be here till she gets here to try to get some answers to some of the questions that have been raised by the School of Hygiene students.
Well, Nancy, how about security? Isn't there, I'm just wondering how they were allowed in to put down the mattresses and to be around.
Yeah. So, Mama, when I got here, there was one man I met who said she was from the ministry's police station. He says he was only sent to come and find out the reason why these students were here. I saw the president speak to him and telling him about the fact that they came here to come and petition the pickets here to register the displeasure over how they've been treated by the sanitation minister. And then he just decided that, okay, he'll go back and report and then he'll be back.
Okay.
And so that's the situation. I don't know whether they're on their way or whatever is going to happen.
Okay. All right, great. Nancy Amefajrazosi, thank you for bringing us up to speed. Nancy will be updating us. I guess this is still very much developing as students wait. And this is not just students from Korle Bu picketing. We've had students from other parts of the country as well. One lady speaking from Ho, traveling all the way, and they are insisting that until they get their allowances, enough of the lobbying and the promises, they need their money. So we're keeping an eye on this developing situation. But let's come back here and close our conversation. Ms. Appiah, will this be part of the, I don't know how you term this, I'm sure you've been following this story, this breaking news story of the students of hygiene picketing at the ministry demanding for their allowances. But before you even come in, let's speak to Mr. Anthony Boateng, who's Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service. Mr. Boateng, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. Hello, sir. Good morning, Mr. Boateng. Okay. All right, let me come to you, Ms. Appiah. I was just asking if this ropes into somehow the conversation that we're having within discipline. This does not count, does it?
Oh, it doesn't. We all know that when people have things to express about, one of the ways that they can do it is what they are doing. So once you've made a promise to them, it is also up to you to fulfill those promises and all that. But I'm worried about the language in terms of they are not going to vote, they are not going to do this, mentioning the president's name here and there. That shows a certain line of how we communicate policies to people. If it's a failure on the part of the ministry to do that, I don't think that we should link everything to the political system to feel that if we don't do it, as if you are selling your right to vote to a particular person, for that matter, if the person do not live up to expectation. This is what you want to do. And that is what exactly happened in this case with our student who vandalized some of the properties and all that. If you listen to most of the videos, it comes back to the same thing. Some were even addressing the president. Some are saying that this and that, you promise us this, you promise us that, we are not going to vote and all that. And that should be a worrying situation for this country, where we link everything to our political system, and anything else that we do, we think that once we made mention of a political party or a political system, everything must be done. And it's a worrying to this country to the extent that it's permeating our senior high and junior high schools. It's a very dangerous precedent that we are setting. And I feel that as policymakers, we have to rise to the occasion to correct some of these anomalies so that a political system do not overtake some of the things that we do. That is why I have condemned the act where we allow political parties to go into our schools to campaign and all that. It's a wrong move, and we should as a matter of policy, delink them from institutions that have been mandated by law to train our students. If there is anything that we need them to know, it must be on patriotism and it must be on nationalism. That is our concern. Okay. And if they are outside world and we want them to know what they're supposed to know about political system, then we take advantage of it. But it's a very worrying situation, Mama V.
Yeah, let's bring into the conversation the Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service, Mr. Anthony Boateng. Good morning to you. Hopefully you can hear me now.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. We've had a beautiful conversation in the studio not too long ago. But here we are today talking about indiscipline because of the videos that we've seen with students not happy either about supervision or not happy, disappointed because they seem to have had some beliefs in the past questions that they had and were disappointed that the questions they were hoping to see, they didn't see in the examination hall. But what we are talking about is their reaction, what we've seen them do on video. And I wonder what you make of it as a Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service.
Right. Thank you and good morning to your listeners as well. Yes, it's a very disturbing, worrying, and very, very, very unfortunate development. We take a very serious view of what's going on, and we intend to deal with the matter. You see, let me start by saying that the Ghana Education Service and therefore the schools have their own, the regulations that deal with discipline. Those issues have not been compromised in any way, despite the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And therefore, any student or anybody who breach any of these rules or regulations will be dealt with according to the rules and regulations of the service. Now, with respect to the videos and the issues that are being discussed, I do not think for one moment that anybody should think that supplying past questions and chief examiner's report to students mean that the students were expecting those questions to appear on their final examinations. It would be a very ridiculous expectation. Like because we're giving past questions to guide in our studies, we're expecting those past questions to appear in our question paper, and therefore, when we went and those questions did not come, then somebody has disappointed us. But who has disappointed who?
But Mr. Boateng, we had a traditional way of doing this where teachers would use it or you would find it in the library. But this was a deliberate attempt to give each student a printed copy of the past questions. What was the communication that went along with it?
Madam, you will know, and I know, that when we were in school, those of us who could not afford even had to go to friends looking for it. And so the idea was that let's make it available to everybody, including those who can afford and those who cannot afford. In the past, when we were going to school and we were looking for question papers, we were not going to expect those question papers to appear at the final exam. They were to serve as guide and to help in our preparations. That is why we even went ahead and added the chief examiner's reports so that they will know what the expectations are as part of their preparations. Now, some of the issues being raised by the students is that their heads were too strict. That, to me, is an issue that we need to interrogate. The examinations are written under rules and regulations, and we expect supervisors and invigilators to go strictly by those rules and regulations. If there is anybody who has gone beyond those rules and regulations, we want to investigate. But if there is any other student who thinks that because of free SHS, they will be allowed to cheat and do what they wanted to do in the examination hall, it's unfortunate, and they will definitely be disappointed. What we find as fundamental is that, if you remember, some questions had appeared on social media. We even issued a statement and warned students to stay away because they were fake. Many of them appear to have depended on those questions on the social media and got themselves disappointed. So that many of the, if you listen to those students from Sandema, I've seen the videos, they will tell you that they depended on the questions on social media and they were disappointed. If those issues are the issues, we can interrogate them. But we even issued a statement and warned that these are fake questions and they should not rely on them and that they should concentrate on their preparations. So those ones are issues that the public must appreciate and understand. When it comes to the school examinations, I am not sure anybody, including the students themselves, were expecting the authorities of the schools were going to allow them to do whatever they like in the examination hall. It will not happen. When you do that, the implications for the students themselves, for the society as a whole, is grave. And we, as responsible managers of the system, will not allow that.
So what is likely to happen to these students? Because we've seen some of them in video, so you can identify them. There's also another report that our colleague also filed for us where the students touched the lightning system. So for the entire school, it was a total blackout, all in protests of the supervision. They said, for instance, that the social distancing was too much. The spaces were too wide. What will happen to these students?
If they claim that social distancing was too wide, it means they wanted to be closer so that they could cheat. Is that the implication? Now, we have seen the videos. We have even identified some of the students. The disciplinary processes have been initiated. We are monitoring the situation. The schools are dealing with the situation. We are waiting for the reports. When the reports come in, all the appropriate sanctions will be applied. If it means even withdrawing any student from school, we will go ahead and do that. If it means deboarding some of them, we will. We will take all the appropriate measures to ensure that there's total discipline and order in the schools. You see, we must appreciate the fact that to every right, there is a corresponding duty. You have the right to be in school, you have the right to do well, but you must also know that you have a responsibility towards the people of this country. And the sacrifices this country is making towards those children should even let them be more responsible. And we will not compromise for one moment any act of indiscipline. For example, let me give you a typical example. If you look at the video from Chidbo Akodia, there is this student girl who stands out there and urges students, destroy everything, destroy school property. We will deal with the situation. That one I can assure you. We will take appropriate disciplinary action against every single individual who is found to have misconducted him or herself. There are some few instances of some teachers who are also being. We will investigate all those matters and take appropriate disciplinary action against each and everyone who is involved.
Well, thank you for your time this morning, Mr. Anthony Boateng. He's a Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service. Let's just wrap up with our thoughts on this conversation with the perspective that has come through from the Ghana Education Service. Mr. Musa, I will start with you and end with you, and then I'll go to Mr. Appiah.
Yeah, thank you very much. All the people involved in the conduct of the exams, I think that those asking for security, the WAEC and the Ghana Education should ensure that they are giving security, because once upon a time, there was a case where a particular person lost his life as a result of doing the work of WAEC during the examination, such like this. So we are asking that security should be provided for all the people who need it at this particular time. The other aspect of all the things that have happened, I want to believe that all will be investigated, and when the facts come out, the appropriate sanctions, certainly. But in doing so, we must ensure that we are fair to everybody. We give everybody fair hearing before we arrive at any conclusion and the lessons that ought.
Okay, but as an association, you don't have any report from your members, do you?
Oh, we get a report from the teachers and all that have happened in the school. And we are waiting. They are trickling in. That's what really happened. And I think it's also premature to make any definite statement because, like I was saying, for some of them, some claim that monies were collected from the students. These are all allegations. And according to them also, that there was a promise that the questions that they were given, they should expect something from it.
So you're also waiting for the investigation?
Yeah, these are things that must be established beyond reasonable doubt, that they were facts and things that happened, and then we can take it out from there.
Okay, great. Yeah. Your last thoughts on this, Mr. Appiah?
Well, Musa mentioned the issue of fair hearing, and I think that should be core in this investigation, and then the approach that Ghana Education Service want to use in providing some kind of discipline to the student. But I want to say that Ghana Education Service, if you look at the work that they've done so far, most of the punishment that they've issued to students are purely administrative. And the school environment is not only for Ghana Education Service, but it's also for the student. So I would suggest to them that whatever punishment that they will give to the children should not deny them their right to have access to education. There's nothing in the law that suggests that when children go on a rampage like this, they have surrendered their right to education. There's nothing of a sort. Yeah. Therefore, any punishment that we want to provide, if it's a criminal act, if it's a tortious act, it must be treated as such so that we don't deny children their right. And I would also add that if you are doing the investigation, we'd have to look at it holistically from the student point of view, from the management point of view, and also the teachers who are also handling the student. Because if students are saying that they are being strict on them, basically, from my experience so far, it shows that they are treating them as a police officers, how a police officer will handle people and all that. So there should be a proper investigation into it before they arrived at any kind of conclusion that they want to, and then the kind of punishment or action that they are going to take, so that the interest of the student would also be served, because that is the ultimate thing.
All right, great. Mr. Appiah, thank you very much for your time. Your book is still, because I got this, was it last year? Is it still out there?
Yes, it's still out there. It's still out there, and people are showing interest in it.
Okay, great. I think it's a good time. If you don't have it, please grab one. A Child is a Subject of Law, authored by Bright Kwaku Appiah. I thank you very much for your time. And also in studio, Mr. Thomas Musa, General Secretary of the National Association of Teachers. Thank you very much. We'll wait for the reports, what you also get from your members, so we can digest the issues further. Well, coming up next, we go to Parliament, where really they say the people who are doing the real work in Parliament, they're just very few. And the new MPs, they are abysmal. That's not coming from me as the minority leader. We've got a conversation. We're engaging the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Draman. And then we'll go to Odikro as well. After all that they've been doing, well, it is true after all. We're back after this.
And the minority leader just on Wednesday raised a big question, and it's about the input, if not the participation of fresh MPs or, first-timers in the whole process of parliamentary work. Now that we're even in the electioneering, it also means that their actions as well as participation in the work of Parliament even becomes more minute, if not pale in significance. But it's all because they need to learn the rudiments of the job. But apart from that, it's even more disheartening if some of them have to lose their seats and have to go. And it's a conversation that all of us want to have, enriching the parliamentary democracy that we're practicing, but also getting the right sort of people in the House for legislative work. Somebody who has commented on this over time, incessantly raising issues about why we need to develop the storehouse of knowledge for our legislature is Dr. Rashid Rahman. He is Executive Director of the think tank African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Basically, their work is trying to do research, surveys, a number of actions, dialogues, dealing with international partners on the subject of how we enrich our parliamentary democracy, not only in Ghana, but the rest of the continent. He's joining us this morning on stream. We'll have this comprehensive discussion on the subject once again. Good morning to you, Dr. Rahman.
Good morning, Roland.
Yeah, sir. And what the minority leader, as well as even the majority leader raised, seemed to be almost a cliche now, is that not it? But for you, it should be something that we should always should have been taken seriously, or?
Yeah, indeed, Roland. I think it's quite disturbing, and I'm happy that now is coming from the the mouths, if I can say it that way, of the leaders of our parliament. Over the years, we've said that one of the banes of our parliamentary democracy is the marriage between the legislature and the executive. And one of the key reasons why we see what we see in Parliament, empty seats, lack of interest, lack of participation, and so on, is because of this key factor. There are other factors, the rising cost of our politics. Today it costs, I don't know how much, but I mean, very, very astronomical kind of figures that we are hearing and seeing for somebody to be elected to go into Parliament. You compare that to what a member of Parliament earns, then that tells you the rest of the story in terms of what will happen if that person gets into Parliament. If the person is part of the executive, then often what we have seen over the years is that allegiance is more towards executive work than parliamentary work. So in effect, we don't have career legislators, people who go to Parliament to make, if you like, the legislative work their career. So you combine all these, we get the results that we are getting right now.
And if we just oppose that with what happens in some of the best developed democracies that we benchmark our practice by, what extremely is the deficit then?
I don't get your question, Roland.
Okay, so the best democracies that we have,
yes,
they have rich minds, etc. We don't have.
Yes.
And the situation that we're seeing by way of the attrition rate, what kind of deficit do we then have in our system?
Well, I mean, certainly there is going to be a deficit of knowledge in terms of parliamentary business and parliamentary work, because as the leaders have said over and over, it takes a very long time, sometimes more than 2 terms, for a member of parliament to be very well versed in the rudiments of parliamentary work. So you go to maybe some advanced democracies, and even on the continent here, I have had friends, for instance, in Tanzania and other places, who have been in parliament for almost 40 years. Now, it's very difficult to legislate some of these things. So we will continue to see the kind of high attrition rate that we see. Indeed, if you look at even our parliament as compared to other parliaments on the continent, our rates are quite low, because recently Botswana renewed its parliament and about 75% of the members did not come back. So you have just 25 full-timers coming back. But Roland, for me, beyond all these discussions that we have had over the years, I mean, I've been involved in this for almost all my kind of professional career life. Since I left, school, I've just been doing parliamentary strengthening work. I've been reflecting, over the years in terms of you know, what is it that would take for us to get effective democracies, I mean, across the continent, and I mean, in particular here at home. And one of the things that I am, I mean, coming close to concluding on is the fact that, you know, what seems to be lacking is, you know, the ethics and integrity in terms of the kind of people that we elect, the kind of people that we have to represent us, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it is not a question of lack of knowledge, because we have a lot of people who, I mean, who have a lot of knowledge in the House. Sometimes it's not a question of maybe people don't have time, but it's a question of whether, you know, each individual every day asks themselves the question, I'm being paid to do this work. As a leader, as somebody who wants to set an example, somebody who has to be a role model for a lot of people, should I be showing up at work and doing the work that I'm being paid for? Or should I, you know, as we have heard over the last few months, sometimes the house is empty, but, you know, you see a lot of people who are marked as present. You know, all these, Roland, they raise a lot of questions about the ethics and integrity of our leaders. And I think as a country, maybe that is something that we need to really seriously focus on. Love for country, you know, love for the work that we have signed up for, and so on. Because, I mean, until we get that kind of crop of leaders, we are going to continue to see our house empty. We are going to continue to see, I mean, the minority leader says only about 10, or I can't even remember the exact number of MPs take part in the lawmaking process.
Yeah.
What is really going on? I mean, where are the rest? What are they doing? I mean, why is Parliament not cracking the whip to make sure that, you know, people show up and they do the work that they have signed up for, so that they give us the proper representation that we need, I mean, as citizens who voted for them.
Yeah, you know, yesterday on an old work platform, kind of a reunion platform that we had, a former boss of mine, who is now, I believe, into the legal fraternity, made the statement. I thought it was just opportune or poignant in this discussion. And this is what he said. I'm quoting his post verbatim. It is a shame, 25 years into multi-party democracy, and we are still grappling with the basics, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I think that, and sometimes, you know, you go out there, I mean, as you said in your introductory remarks, we work with a number of parliaments across the continent. Sometimes you go out there and the kind of praises that are showered on our democracy, on our parliament and so on, you know, I mean, you begin to ask yourself the question, if all these people who are, I mean, providing, I mean, these praises and so on, show up and witness what is going on the ground in our country, I mean, I wonder if they will have a change of mind in terms of their assessment of our democracy. I mean, to be fair, we have come a long way. We have made a lot of progress, but this is not where we ought to be. And I think it is all about, going back to the issue of love for country, patriotism, integrity, and most importantly, the corruption that is too rampant in our political electioneering process. So, I mean, people will have to find resources. Right now, I mean, people who are contesting for office are running helter-skelter looking for resources. I mean, anywhere that the resources will come from, I mean, they will take it.
Okay.
And then beyond that, you know what happens, Roland? I mean, people will have to ask for payback.
Right. As we wrap up this conversation, just 2 or 3 quick questions. Now,
yes,
these notable observations that many of you who make think tanks, researchers, academics, etc. Apart from saying that we're bereft of storehouse of knowledge, institutional memory, how really do they affect the core of the democracy that we have?
Well, I mean, Roland, look, I mean, the idea of, democracy, parliamentary democracy, is the beauty of the varied kind of views that we have to participate in all the processes. So if you are making laws and then you have, just maybe a few MPs around the table, I mean, they represent just perhaps maybe just a very minority kind of view. So at the end of the day, you have a law that is passed. We have to live with this law for generations to come. And this law has not benefited from the kind of different shades of opinions and orientations that we should have, I mean, bearing on this law. So in effect, the citizenry is shortchanged. And if the law is bad, sometimes we have laws that we have to live with for maybe 20, 30 years before they get repealed or they get amended and so on and so forth. So that's just an example of what this kind of attitude can do to us, I mean, as a country. And can you imagine, Roland, maybe a law is passed on healthcare or on education that has not benefited from, I mean, the wide kind of, representation of views that we have and the expert kind of views that should have been brought to bear on this. And our poor folks in the village would have to live with this, the consequences of whatever negative effects that such a law would have, I mean, if it's on education or on health, for many, many, many generations to come. And I think our country deserves better.
Now, what would be the best advice you'd have? I know this is not the last time you're going to give this. It's not the last time you've said this, but what would be the clarion call, if that phrase is better?
Well, I mean, the clarion call, Roland, is that, I think people have to be passionate about the work that they have signed up for. I mean, I watch you guys on what you do. I mean, it's not that you are the best paid in the world, but I can see a lot of passion, a lot of love for what you do. I mean, people have to be patriotic, and people have to, I mean, be guided by a very high sense of ethics and integrity, particularly people that we say they are the. Hello, Roland, can you hear me?
Please go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you clearly.
Yes. I mean, people that we say they are tasked with the responsibility of holding everybody to account in the state. Because, I mean, Parliament's remit has no limit. They can call you, they can call me, they can call anybody to come and account or to show up before the House and answer questions. So, such people should be beyond reproach. Such people should be of very high levels of integrity. So that, I mean, when they say Parliament is calling, then we know that there are very serious consequences and very serious work I mean, will be done. In the US, for instance, when they say Congress is calling, I mean, no matter your rank in society, you develop a lot of shivers. I don't think that we have the same thing here in our land. And it's all because, as you are showing on your screen, I mean, we go to defend members of parliament in terms of their conditions and so on, and people ask, we are paying, but are we getting the value for the money that we are paying? Because if people don't show up, and it's not that somebody is conjuring the story, but the pictures are showing. So I think for me, I want to appeal to the leadership of our parliament. I want to also appeal to the political parties, because I think MPs are the products of our two major political parties in this country for now. I think some serious work would need to be done. Yesterday, I heard that the first deputy speaker was calling for, the political parties to start grooming and training future members of parliament. I think it's a call in the right direction. But what I had to add to that was that as part of the grooming, as part of the training, ethics and integrity should be number one, so that when people get there, they put country first and not their political parties, not their personal interests, not the interests of any other lobby groups and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, we have to wrap up our discussion now, but we have to thank you for the good work you're doing. Sometimes it's quite surprising. Those who rather should be in politics are not in politics.
Yeah, I think that you are right. You are right. And so it's just because of what our politics has become. Because today, if I want to go into parliament, I don't have the money, and I can't be running around taking money from sources that I don't understand or I don't recognize. I mean, eventually that comes back to haunt you. So I hope that maybe we'll get to a point where our politics is straightened up and so on, so that it's all about national service and people can all go in and contribute their quotas.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Rashid Dramani, Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. And we're having this discussion, we had this discussion, basically because, well, a number of members of parliament, a majority of them have not been attending their sittings. And it is because it's an electioneering or election year. We see this each year, we need to have elections. All right. But even more dramatic is the fact that even first-timers are not just up to the task of making sure they don't absent themselves for parliament. But what does it mean? Dr. Rashid Dramani, Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, seems to think that it is because we don't have at the core of trying to groom members the teaching of ethics and integrity. And that is what is affecting the democracy we're practicing. Well, that's why we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest in showbiz. Do stay with us.